Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Soraya Sedeghi, and it's an honor to be here today to moderate this important session with my amazing colleague.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pramisa, and I'm also honored to be here. Thank you all for joining us today.
Last year, FAO hosted the UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum, involving around 200 indigenous youth from the 7 sociocultural regions in our famous nomadic tents, our indigenous territory at FAO. Today, 7 exceptional indigenous youth will be on this stage to share their insights on the implementation of last year's outcomes, as well as their regional priorities toward the next forum that will take place in FAO in 2025.
So let's begin with our first panel. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage FAO Deputy Director General Maurizio Martina, His Excellency Anthony Mueller, Minister for Natural Resources and Commerce of Marshall Islands,
Judy Kipkenda, co-chairs of the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus and FAO Food Hero,
and Ture Laiti, co-chair of the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus and Vice Chair of the Sami Youth in Finland. Please have a seat. Thank you all for joining us today in this important session. And now I would like to begin the opening remarks with Deputy Director General Martina. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning to everyone. Thank you again for this important occasion, and congratulations, I would say, first of all, for this important days here in FAO through the World Food Forum. It's an honor for me to be here and share with the stage with the Indigenous Youth Delegation today. And over the last decade, FAO has worked closely with the indigenous people to recognize their importance and unique role in the food systems and promote their right. First of all, their right. And indigenous youth face serious challenges, we know very well, as highlighted by the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues in 2016. And loss of land, forced assimilation, and the weakening of their traditional food and knowledge systems deeply affect their well-being and their future. And in response, FAO started working more closely with the indigenous youth. In 2017, the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus met with FAO, leading the Rome Statement on the contribution of indigenous youth towards a world without hunger. And in 2021, the first UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum was held online during the pandemic, where indigenous youth collaborated to create the Global Declaration on Sustainable and Resilient Food System. And through the important initiative, such as My Food Vision is campaign, indigenous youth continue to shape the global dialogues on food security and climate change. And last year, the UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum met in person for the first time. And indigenous youth from the 7 sociocultural regions, the world came together in Rome and launched to the Rome Declaration on Safeguarding 7 Generations. And the declaration includes policy recommendations on the future of indigenous people, food and knowledge systems in the context of climate change and biodiversity action, and the impact of pesticides, extractive industries, and ultra-processed foods, and on the protection of the indigenous plant genetic resources and education. We honor to contribute and the resilience of the indigenous youth, and their voices are crucial in building a sustainable future, and FIO remains committed to supporting their leadership in the years to come. Next year, we will meet for the third session on the UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum here in Rome again. And let me take this opportunity to invite you all to join us in 2025 to jointly implement the Indigenous Youth Declaration, looking 7 generations ahead. Thank you so much for your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martina, for highlighting the importance of indigenous peoples and in particular indigenous youth for FAO. So now I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Antonio Muller. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. I'll start with our native tongue. I've been preaching it all week, so I might as well bring it to this indigenous crowd. Yahweh. Iya is the beautiful rainbow, and Kwe is you. So when we greet you with the word, we are literally saying, you're as beautiful as the rainbow. So with that, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Yahweh. I don't know how much we can contribute to this forum, but I'd like to echo the Deputy Director's comments. And thank you all for this opportunity to be here. We're here to listen, we're here to learn, and we're here to help in any way we can. So with that, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to see the Indigenous Youth Delegation here today. Your voices are essential as we confront the challenges facing our food systems and environment. Pacific nations are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate crisis, including biodiversity loss and extreme weather events. Indigenous peoples are among the most affected, yet the least responsible for these changes. Indigenous peoples' food and knowledge systems in the Pacific are rapidly vanishing. Addressing this challenge is crucial, as these systems offer sustainable solutions to the global crisis humanity is living. In the Pacific Island countries, the One Health is particularly relevant, promoting an integrated approach which interconnects human, animal, and environmental health, highlighting our shared responsibility for safeguarding the well-being of all living beings and their ecosystems. This aligns with values like reciprocity and interconnectedness that are central to the Indigenous people's identity. We thank the FAO for including Indigenous peoples from the Pacific in their spaces of discussions, such as the UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum last year, and in the Global Hub on Indigenous Peoples' food systems this year. We must continue this engagement in the next session of the forum in 2025 to ensure Indigenous youth perspectives are heard. I also want to express gratitude to FAO for its participation in the 4th Pacific Climate Change Conference in Samoa, which aimed to foster collaboration and actionable solutions to tackle climate change in the Pacific. Looking ahead to 2020, towards sustainable and resilient food systems in the Pacific. Indigenous peoples' food systems can provide the solutions we need. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for highlighting the importance of Indigenous peoples' food and knowledge systems to combat triple planetary crisis and to save the planet for today and tomorrow as well. Now I'd like to pass the floor to Judy Kipkenda. Judy, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank you, Mr. Martinez, Your Excellency Mula. Thank you so much for your wonderful speeches here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Judy Kipkenda. I'm co-chair for the United Nations Global Indigenous Youth Caucus. As the Deputy Director has detailed, the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus started collaborating with FAO in the year 2017, and each year since then, we have continued to build our progress and initiatives together to advance the work of Indigenous youth for our food systems. From this same stage of the World Food Forum in 2022, the Global Indigenous Youth Delegation designed and launched My Food Vision Is campaign to support and advocate for the work that Indigenous youths are leading globally for sustainable food systems with action for climate change and biodiversity loss. Last year, the second session of the United Global Indigenous Youth Forum resulted in the Rome 2023 Indigenous Youth Declaration, safeguarding the seventh generation in times of food, social, and ecological crisis. This is a collective work with the inputs from the Indigenous youths from the 7 socio-cultural regions. This declaration is a robust document with 7 themes and 49 policy recommendations for the UN agencies, member states, and Indigenous peoples organizations. In our session today, you will hear from Indigenous youth leaders from 7 socio-cultural regions and how they're using the policy recommendations and the My Food Vision Is campaign to continue building the momentum and working with the Indigenous youths that are leading towards the third session of the United Nations Global Indigenous Youth Forum next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Judy. And thank you for your leadership as an Indigenous youth representative and for all your work you do in the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus. So now I would like to pass the floor to Ture. The floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Excellencies. Thank you, Judy, for great statements. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Ture Laiti. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus, and I'm also the vice chair of the Sami Youth Association in Finland. This week, we've had the opportunity to speak in side events, to share our perspectives and expertise, as well as to meet with the Youth Policy Board and Youth Assembly to share our regional priorities and Indigenous youth feedback on their regional themes and Global Youth Action Plan. And in a moment, you'll hear more about the regional priorities that Indigenous youth leaders of our delegation are focused on during this intersessional year before the next UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum. These priorities are based on lengthy processes of coordination in our respective regions and based on the policy recommendations of the 2023 Rome Declaration that are top priority for their region as Indigenous youth activists for our food systems in our communities and in these international arenas. It's important for us to maintain momentum and stay action-oriented in our proposals. So we have 1 year before the third session of the UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum. Today, you'll hear about what we set to accomplish and advance during this period before 2025 and towards 2025. Thank you.
Thank you so much for our 4 first speakers. So thank you for all sharing these impactful messages with us today and for highlighting the vital role that Indigenous youth play in shaping our future and for the tremendous efforts that brought us to this moment. So thank you so much again, and I would like to call on the stage the other speakers. Thank you so much. So while FAO was established in 1945, it was only 10 years ago that the Indigenous Peoples Unit was created. Since that moment, many things have been achieved, but still we have so much work to do together. So we really look forward to hosting the third session of the UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum next year here in FAO, and to give everyone a better sense of what to expect next year, I would like to show to take a moment to watch a video of what happened last year during the last session of the UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum. Thank you.
Musoluyo, dunya musoluyo, musoluyo, farafina musoluyo, anije, anibara, ambauye barara, dunya musoluyo, afori mawe, nimana wajamana bela. Muso be barala, anije, anibara. Dunya muso amafula, amfuli bawe. Ne baye muso ledi, ne fabola muso lela. Muso ya kana ke mwaneri, muso ya yefemaye. Farafina amafula, farajela amafula, ameli amafula, asi amafula, dunia muso yefemaye, ambebola muso ila. Musolio, farafina musolio. Imafa tonyo, imafa neni, imafa lebo, imafa java, isarabi masala lufe. Musoya nikora ya kaka, dunuya muso amafula, amafula. Musoya efemani, amafula.
Ninguno de los sueños puede tener barreras cuando todos estamos aquí juntos, las 7 regiones socioculturales, trabajando juntos para poder construir parte de nuestros sueños, pero también parte de los sueños de nuestros mayores, de nuestras 7 generaciones pasadas, pero también las generaciones venideras, 7 generaciones que son nuestra responsabilidad.
Wow. This powerful video is just a glimpse of what happened at the UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum last year. Today, we have amazing UN Indigenous youth leaders here from the 7 different socio-cultural regions. So I invite all of you to join the stage with us now. To open our discussion today, I understand that with Indigenous youth across each of your regions, you have chosen a few key priorities from 2023 Rome Declaration, Rome Indigenous Youth Declaration, which is titled Safeguarding 7 Generations in Times of Food, Social, and Ecological Crisis. Would you please share with us these regional priorities that you will be focused on between now and the next year's 2025 UN Global Indigenous Forum? I'd like to start from Africa region. Bernard Lulasu, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. My name is Bernard Lolasho. I am from the Yaku of Mkogodo people in Kenya. It's an honor to participate in this year's World Food Forum physically, even though last year I was not able to participate. Nonetheless, I'm honored to represent the outcomes of the 2023 Global Indigenous Youth Forum and the 2023 Indigenous Youth Declaration in the spirit of stewardship and knowledge transfer that should be rooted in our work with nature. From the Africa region, the regional priority that we focused on this year leading up to the next session of the UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum is promoting the use of traditional and locally sourced foods, supporting initiatives that reduce food waste, and promoting sustainable consumption and production. We have chosen this priority specifically because the indigenous youth across the region who are focused on efforts around food systems are facing many challenges politically, economically, and environmentally to keep our food systems alive. At the same time, there are many initiatives that are being led by young indigenous people across the region to grow their food and to consume our food and reduce food waste.
Thank you so much, Bernard. Now I invite Sarah Elvira from Arctic region to give your remarks. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Elvira Kofmanen, and I'm from the Swedish part of Sápmi, where I am the leader for the Sámi Youth Association Sámi Norra. From the Arctic region, we have two priorities from the declaration that we focused on. First one is recommendation 24. We recommend member states to recognize indigenous peoples and adopt ILO 169 and the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, as well as other mechanisms of rights achieved, in the vision of achieving the right to food. In Finnish and Swedish part of Sápmi, the states have not still ratified ILO 169. FPIC, free, prior and informed consent, is not respected or implemented in none of the states, Sweden, Finland, Russia or Norway, that are the part of Sápmi, the traditional area where the Sámi people live. And especially when it comes to this green transition, it's not respected. It is important to work with this recommendation to be able to have our fundamental human rights respected. We see that this is an important recommendation not only for Sápmi but also for all indigenous peoples. That we see that we all have our human rights respected and with that maintain our food security. Secondly, for our Inuit relatives, they are focused on the non-equitable cases on restricting imports and the access to indigenous food in the European Union, and as it relates to the recommendation 20 on the right to fair markets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah Elvira. Now I would like to pass the floor to our representatives from Asia. Simran, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Johar to everyone. My name is Simran Rashmi Bansingh. I am from Ho tribal community from Asia. From the region of Asia, our process involved consulting the 2023 delegation and our communities. We have focused our attention on two priorities across the region. Firstly, we need 3P: protect, promote, and preserve. Recognition and legal security for right to land, territory, and resource to protect, promote, and preserve indigenous knowledge and food system. Our first regional priority relates to recommendation number 26. We recommend member states to recognize and include within their national development plan and food policy the role of indigenous peoples, the food and knowledge system for food security, and invest in funds that strengthen their food sovereignty and self-sufficiency, and their contribution to national food security. And recommendation number 36, we recommend government to recognize the land and water tenure rights of indigenous people so that they can continue to practice and maintain the practice that make them self-sufficient, sustainable, and custodian of the biodiversity of the planet. Our second regional priority is capacity buildings of indigenous youth in the area of indigenous farming, production, packaging, and access to market to create value chain for indigenous food. The priority connects to the recommendation number 16 and 20 from the declaration. Recommendation number 16, we recommend IFAD, FAO, and the other UN bodies within the interagency and support group of indigenous people to create a financing fund for different policies and projects that support indigenous youth and children in matters of food, physical and mental health and sustainability. These funds should be designed and coordinated with the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus. Recommendation number 20, we urge FAO and other international regulatory bodies to guarantee right to price, right to fair markets on products produced by indigenous people so that they can control, regulate, and decide on their own produce for fair profits in a globalized market. We have chosen to focus on these two priorities across our regional efforts because our indigenous food and knowledge system are vastly diverse and for young people. We really need capacity building opportunities that keep us in our communities with viable future. Thank you.
I think that you may have noticed that here we have only 6 chairs, even for the socio-cultural regions are 7, because unfortunately we couldn't be able to have one representative from the Central Asia, Transcaucasia, and Russia regions due to visa issues that many indigenous youth are facing. So we would like to give the floor to her, who is joining us online today. So Mariam Tampieva, thank you so much for being with us today, even if it is online. So the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Hello, everyone. Warm greetings from Istanbul. My name is Mariam. I'm Karachay-Balkar food expert, member of Knowledge Makers program. And it's a big honor to me to share what our delegations wish to point out as regional priorities. On our part, we worked with my colleague Maria Michurova, Sami leader of the YAS Association Ethno Energy and member of Sami Nissan Forum. First, we want to note that our region of Central Asia, Transcaucasia, and Russia is a huge and diverse, and across it, indigenous YAS face various challenges, resonating with other social culture regions. That's why we would like to express our solidarity for the priorities highlighted by other delegates today. Members of our delegation have chosen to point out today educational challenges and related recommendations, equally relevant across all our region, both in terms of access to conventional and indigenous knowledge. And among them, recommendation number 32, we recommend member states of institutionalize and recognize within educational policies the spaces for co-creation of alternative knowledge that are essential for the transmission, revitalization, and conservation of knowledge of indigenous peoples, especially seeking elderly and women as holders of that traditional knowledge and wisdom. And recommendation 7, we recommend the Codex Alimentaris Committee to collaborate with IFSC and Indigenous People Global Food System Center to incorporate and develop research that focuses on indigenous people food systems and knowledge and explore their potential to contribute to food security. We have chosen these priorities because our YAS were already in vulnerable position as national minorities even before COVID. In remote Arctic Caucasus or Central Asia villages, it's still hard to get elementary school education. Moreover, after the pandemic and all the conflicts in the region last years, we are almost cut off from access to resources and opportunities for development and education. That's what we wanted to share today. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mariam, for joining us online and highlighting the importance of traditional and indigenous food preservation methods. Now, I would like to pass the floor to Brenda Salos from Latin America and the Caribbean region. Brenda, the floor is yours.
Buenos días a todos, qué alegre saludarles. Yo soy Brenda Saloj, soy maya cachiquel de Guatemala. Soy uno de los puntos focales de mi región y estoy acá representándolos. Nuestras recomendaciones tienen que ver con la recomendación número 18, 31 y 33. Las prioridades están a los estados y agencias de las Naciones Unidas promover el apoyo a iniciativas de proyectos y buenas prácticas de los jóvenes indígenas y permitir una flexibilidad a acceso a fondos para apoyar iniciativas, porque ahora existen iniciativas concretas. Por ejemplo, en América Latina está la iniciativa del Fondo Colomnog y Capanam para proyectos liderados por jóvenes indígenas. También queremos resaltar y fortalecer las capacidades de las juventudes indígenas relacionadas con la participación en escenarios de incidencia nacional e internacional en temas de alimentos y su relación transversal con los derechos de los pueblos indígenas. También recomendamos a los Estados miembros que crean fondos en colaboración para desarrollar tecnologías e iniciativas que satisfagan sus necesidades, les permitan mejorar sus sistemas alimentarios para lograr la autosuficiencia alimentaria y crear sistemas alimentarios y comunidades resilientes. Finalmente, recomendamos a los estados la creación de políticas y programas enfocados hacia la juventud y niñez indígena. Hay muchos jóvenes que están iniciando proyectos, pero carecen de este acceso, de fondos y apoyo suficiente. Hemos visto cómo el acceso a fondos y de apoyo, el acompañamiento, el financiamiento puede lograr grandes impactos en la región. Por eso nos enfocamos en estas recomendaciones para poder hacer cambios importantes en nuestras comunidades. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Brenda. Now we'd like to give the floor to Daryl. Thank you so much.
It's a good day today, and I'm happy to represent North America here today, a part of the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus. From North America, our regional priorities are for this year in relation to the Rome Declaration that many of these Indigenous youth from across the world contributed to. For us in the thematic areas, we've chosen to safeguarding our food systems, our health, and our mental health. This priority relates, just like our sister Seravi, with the recommendation number 24, which recommends member states to recognize Indigenous peoples' rights and to adopt international agreements, much like the ILO Convention 169 and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples to ensure the right to food. We also recommend member states should implement educational programs about right to food, focusing on collaboratively and culturally relevant knowledge and healthy food options that strengthen children's cultural identities that should build upon traditional food and knowledge systems. One of the other areas, our second priority, is related to land security and recognition of our custodianship in traditional territories. This priority is rooted in many recommendations in the Rome Declaration, but specifically focusing on number 2, FAO should update its policy on Indigenous and tribal peoples in consultation with Indigenous peoples, ensuring the inclusion of Indigenous peoples, women, and youth through the process of free, prior, and informed consent. It is a great honor to be able to represent these Indigenous youth, and the voices that they shared last year were very important and hold dear to my heart, and to hear their feedback and their thoughts. These youth are from across North America, from around the world, and we are both leading incredible work for Indigenous-led land restoration and food systems and revitalization. At the same time, Indigenous youth are also disproportionately affected by the mental health impacts of not having access to our Indigenous food systems. For us, these two recommendations and regional priorities are intertwined. For us to be healthy, the lands and foods have to be healthy. We need to be in the positions to reconnect and steward in the ways we have been taught. And to keep those ways of life going, we need educational programs for Indigenous youth that keep them connected and learning the language, traditions, and ways of stewardship. Lastly, our Indigenous youth that attended here wanted to see more of their identity, their stories, their success, their projects reflected right here within the World Food Forum, not just within Indigenous peoples' territories. And that is something that I continue to support as a common goal from all of us across the world, a part of the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus. Ishnish, thank you.
Thank you so much, Daryl, for representing Indigenous young people's perspectives from North America. Now, I would like to move to Pacific with Lahila from Hawaii. Lahila, the floor is yours.
Aloha kakahiaka kako, o wau no o Lahela kamehano kala matos, no Hawaii imayo makamoku o Oahu I ka ahupua o Kahalu. Aloha everyone, my name is Lahela Kamehano Kalamatos. I come from Hawaii on the island of Oahu in the ahupua of Kahalu. I'm one of the Pacific focal points for the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus, and I'm here to represent the youth of the Pacific. For the Pacific region, we've honed in on our regional priorities on 3 different topics. First, recommendation number 10. In the framework of the Water Decade, we recommend UNESCO, FAO, the Framework on Climate Change Convention, sorry, a mouthful, UNEP, and other organizations to recognize the rights of Indigenous peoples in water and recognize its value in its different forms, not only as a resource, but also the inherent connection it has to identity, culture, and food systems. We call for the development of mechanisms that strengthen and guarantee the right to water, specifically both Vai and Kai, fresh water and salt water. As Indigenous youth, it's important that we remain steadfast to protect our waters, and this can only be done through strengthened access to our waters. Secondly, we're also prioritizing recommendation number 20, the right to price and fair market. We recommend FAO, WTO, and other international regulatory bodies to guarantee right to price or right to fair market on products produced by Indigenous people so that they can control, regulate, and decide on their own produce for fair profits in a globalized market. Currently, in the Pacific, we're facing unaffordable prices across the region due to high energy and labor costs, import dependency, urbanization, tourism, and militarism. Despite these challenges, as Indigenous youth, we deserve a future where we can afford, produce, and consume the foods of our islands and of our ancestors. Although our current trajectory may not be sustainable, we have other options. However, in order to explore these other options, we need market changes for this to take hold. Finally, similar to some of the other folks on this stage, we're also prioritizing recommendation number 22. We recommend WHO, UNICEF, and the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples to carry out a study on the status and determinants of the physical, spiritual, and mental health of Indigenous youth and children in the context of climate change, migration, and conflict worldwide in order to make specific recommendations to member states in order to address these problems. We're witnessing and experiencing the mental, physical, economic, and emotional toll that climate change, migration, and conflicts are having on our people across the Pacific. Climate change has shifted our seasons, limiting our ability to grow, gather, and catch food. Our diets have been compromised, and our traditional foods are becoming harder to access and grow. To inform our dialogues in the 2025 UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum, we'd like a study to advance this conversation and the coordinated efforts that can be done at the international level to recognize and respond. Mahalo.
Thank you, each of you, for sharing these regional priorities and the important reason for why you have on this. So these are materials that we want to reflect on, so we will look forward to the 2025 UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum in FAO. So thank you for your leadership in the region to identify these key areas of work. So thank you so much to all of you. And your collective leadership with the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus and with the Indigenous youth who attended the forum last year has been building momentum over many years. So a key development was led by the Indigenous Youth Delegation to the World Food Forum in 2022, when in this exact room, in the Sheikh Zayed, you launched the My Food Vision Is campaign with the 4 key messages connected to the FAO for Betters of FAO with a global call to action. So this campaign encompassed the huge diversity of indigenous people's food and knowledge systems and the actions being led by indigenous youth globally to steward and protect these vital systems. So your work now is advancing the My Food Vision Is campaign. So I would like to take a look at this video, the launch video from 2022, and then we will continue our discussion on that. So thank you so much.
Conservar las semillas es conservar la vida. Las generaciones vamos a conservar todo lo que tenga que ver con nuestra alimentación, porque de una u otra manera es la vida de mi comunidad.
The Great Barrier Reef provides the resources for traditional custodians to be able to continue their practice of traditional hunting and fishing. Without the Great Barrier Reef, we have no connection to our cultural identity.
Аныбыманнык ахырбыт бихека традиция болтах, қана хатыбыт. Бәбіт аспытынан қана хатыбыт, олахан хертен продуктовары күппекке.
Los pueblos indígenas protegemos y resguardamos el 80% de la biodiversidad del mundo, gracias a nuestros modos de vida que están en armonía con la madre tierra. Y allí que nuestros sistemas alimentarios de caza, pesca, siembra y recolección son importantes para seguir tejiendo esa relación de respeto y reciprocidad.
Dunia hanya mampu melihat saja, sesat mencari jalan bagaimana untuk mengobatinya. Kemusnahan hidup kita akibat penyakit tamat, mereka yang berlomba untuk
We just saw in the video the inspiring actions that our indigenous youth leaders are carrying all across 7 sociocultural regions across the world. Now, 2 years after the launch of this campaign and in light of the recommendations from the 2023 Rome Declaration, I would like to ask our indigenous youth leaders, what specific actions are you focusing on in your regions? Additionally, your campaign, My Food Vision Is campaign, how is it serving as an amplifier in your own efforts? I would like to start again with Lahila from the Pacific region. Lahila, the floor is yours.
Aloha ho, everyone. Hello again. My name is Lahila. I'm a Pacifica archivist, a genealogist, and a planner who incorporates indigenous knowledge into the planning of urban design and land use. In my work and in my research, I prioritize and raise concerns about land use, cultural and environmental impacts of development, food systems, and restorative justice. In my work, I'm experiencing and responding firsthand to the impacts of natural disaster, tourism, militarization, and imported foods on the food and water security and safety of indigenous peoples of Hawaii. I do my best to inform and shape land use decisions to improve food security and sustainability in Hawaii. And as a planner, as well as a Native Hawaiian from a fishing community, I'm helping put into action through planning and local decisions the food vision that Native Hawaiians are revitalizing across the islands in the face of current challenges. My sister Lisa from Vanuatu is also a Pacifica advocate and custodian, and her passion lies in advocating for and promoting our cultural heritage, emphasizing the importance of preserving ancestral knowledge and indigenous languages. Back home, she collaborates closely with youth and elders in our community to develop food initiatives. Lisa is coordinating an upcoming food festival which showcases their indigenous food, traditional folklore, food histories, and songs related to food safety and security. They are experiencing big changes with climate change and imported foods, so these types of gatherings are important for our local coordination and indigenous food systems. All of this is part of our food vision.
We are deeply privileged to have with us the Director General Kudong Yu. So the floor is yours, so please take the stage. Thank you so much.
will find my location. I want to be with you. I saw there's a good place. I was responsible for culture for 3 years. So I made a lot of film also. You didn't know. That's why I'm so impassioned with the culture, with Indigenous. I just want to share my story, why I'm so passionate with the Indigenous. First, I live surrounded by all the famous Indigenous people in China. And the people maybe hear that there one minor nationality. We call the minor nationality. We don't use the Indigenous name. It's your nationality. It's quite a big minor nationality. And they still remain the language, writing language, transferred from one generation to another by female, not by man. Yeah, that's second, 40 years ago, I visited Lugu Lake. It's located in Yunnan province. That time, still the maternal society. Everything is controlled by mother side. If the gentleman old, they return to the home of sister because the man have no family. So I think the Indigenous, and I visited so many places, unites more than 35 minor nationalities. And also I visited so many places in Indonesia. So I think that time I was scientist. So I realized that's a word, but I was scientist on plant diversity. But I enjoy we are human beings as ethnic diversity. So that's why we need now I'm a FODG, I should use my function to do something for the future. That's why I didn't share with you my previous, original aspiration 3-4 years ago when we started support the chief economist. And also, he is from Peru, yeah? And in Andes Mountains, tropical jungle regions, they all still have a lot of indigenous people there. So anyway, that makes myself feel so close, so touched. And today, after 2 years, we welcome you here again. And every year now, I saw some friend from Indonesia. He was a singer and dancer, made him so famous in Indonesia. When I met the president of Joko Widodo, even he knows him. Yeah. So today we are here to listen to the voice of indigenous youth. You carry the wisdom of your ancestors, passion for future generations. You are not only the present, but also hold the key to the future of your food, your knowledge, and your culture. And you are not just the guardians, you are also the protector and the defender of the biodiversity and the planet. FAO is very proud to host you and to host this event for your new meeting point. It's a meeting for the global indigenous people. And the indigenous tent outside is our indigenous people's camp. Within FAO, it's your new home, again, in Rome. Nearby the Circular Maxima and all this, it's really hard point, midpoint of the Rome. You didn't know. There are so many Roman people jealous FAO located in just the midpoint. And also Secretary General always joke with me. He wanted to change the job with me, but I said no. I couldn't manage your job. You couldn't manage my job. Be honest, I don't want to go to New York. And it has been a symbol of the importance FAO gives to the meaningfully including indigenous people's food, knowledge, and culture across our work. This week, the Indigenous tent has been the heartland of the World Food Forum for important discussions. And today, we had the privilege to hear from indigenous youth leaders from all over the world on the progress of work on the Roma Declaration, adopted 1 year ago right here in Rome, in Indigenous tent. I just listened from the Hawaii, you are from Hawaii. So this declaration is declaration is not just the paper document, it's a call for action that reflects the collective wisdom of indigenous youth globally, because you are the younger generation carry on the butter flag to the future. We have been working side by side with indigenous people and youth to implement its recommendation, ensuring that the indigenous people's perspectives shape global discussion and policy. I'm pleased to announce that 2025 FAO will host the third UN Global Indigenous Youth Forum, which will bring the hundreds of indigenous youth to Rome again. Thank you, thank you. Ancestors teach us that we should always look 7 generations behind and 7 generations ahead to ensure that the current generation lives and works for the benefit of the 7th generation into the future. That was the first concept of sustainability. Today, we have to come together, specifically join hands to transform our agro-food systems and create more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and a more sustainable future. And to ensure the good food for all, for today and for tomorrow. I'm so excited to continue work with all of you so that we can continue to think together, learning together, cooperate together, and contribute together. I thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Director General, for your inspiring words. So really, let's join hands together to transform our food systems together. And as the Director General said, I really think that you are not only the present, but you're all the keys for the future. And without you, without your wisdom and knowledge, we are not going to make it. So now I would like to pass the floor to Daryl. Daryl, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Director General, for being here today. We appreciate your presence and your continued support. I currently work in many indigenous educational and leadership programs in relation to indigenous issues, especially in traditional food security and sovereignty. Currently, I am a co-executive director within the Howl Experience, and we started to work on creating a food security and food sovereignty and indigenous knowledge program for both indigenous and non-indigenous youth from across Canada to practice and learn about traditional knowledge systems and contemporary practices that we utilize to teach right to food. I'm also working on the reclamation of indigenous communities and connection and recognition back to their traditional hunting and harvest locations. Specifically within my community, we are located in the mountains. The national park came into our territory around the year of 1885 and removed our people as a way of conservation and preservation of biodiversity. At the same time, that was our right to our food, our harvesting and our hunting area and territory that provided our right to food. To me, this is very important work and the significance of what the right to food can help indigenous peoples from around the world, but specifically within my community to connect back to. I grew up on the land and around a community called the Iarhe Nakota people, a part of the Rocky Mountains of Treaty 7 in southern Alberta, Canada. We flourished in preserving our language, our traditional values, and our practices. And myself, as a young hunter, a harvester, it's important for me to keep learning and practicing the use of our complex traditional knowledge to be successful. It is important to me to reconnect and continue to connect with our communities to the lands and to the practices of our traditional food security that our ancestors have been doing since time immemorial. I would also like to acknowledge and recognize that I am not only the indigenous youth here this week to represent North America, but my brother, Jesse, from the Dene Ina people in Alaska, where he is also a youth leader and storyteller. Jesse is a lead dancer of his cultural group and is focused on cultural revitalization and community substance projects at a grassroots level for food resilience initiatives. He is also advocating for climate change action at a community level within his villages across the regions of Alaska who are facing the melting of the permafrost and other changes. Jesse's work on the ground level is hands-on, rooted in cultural values, and focused on creating the food vision they hold as communities facing changes across Alaska. In both of our ways and with many other ways in our perspectives and our processes and mechanisms within communities, we are bringing to life the food vision of our people. This is what we'll continue to work on together and encourage fellow Indigenous youth in their initiatives as well from across Canada and the USA. Ishnish, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Daryl, for explaining how you are taking actionable steps to realize the food vision of our people. Now, I'd like to move to Brenda from Latin America and the Caribbean region. Brenda, the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias. Vengo de una familia, una comunidad que enfatizamos el cuidado de la madre tierra y sus elementos. Mi trabajo principalmente se centra en la defensa de los derechos humanos de los pueblos indígenas, especialmente para abrir brechas de oportunidades a las nuevas generaciones. Trabajo para promover la equidad en los espacios de toma de decisiones y su impacto en nuestra soberanía alimentaria para la comunidad indígena. Además, laboro con mujeres jóvenes indígenas en Guatemala para facilitar su acceso a una educación integral, que fomentan su integridad en los espacios de formación. Seguiré trabajando para la nueva generación y nuevas oportunidades para su integración, para su crecimiento a nivel nacional e internacional. Mi hermano Gabriel, del pueblo Pasto, Colombia, se centra en los sistemas de conocimientos indígenas en torno a la protección de la biodiversidad y la soberanía alimentaria, y cómo el cambio climático está afectando a ambas áreas. Desde su convicción de la protección del territorio, está coordinando con jóvenes indígenas a nivel nacional e internacional para proteger sus territorios y la soberanía alimentaria en diversas iniciativas en toda la región. Ambos estamos trabajando para apoyar a otros jóvenes de la región de América Latina y el Caribe mediante acciones específicas y comunitarias para fortalecer las decisiones que afectan nuestro territorio, nuestra biodiversidad, sistemas de alimentación y futuros como fuentes a los fuertes impactos del cambio climático. Muchas gracias. Matios.
Muchas gracias, Brenda, por tus palabras. Now we will turn to Mariam Tambieva, who is connecting online.
Thank you so much. I'm working on saving North Caucasus food knowledge, digitizing and teaching it. As a member of Knowledge Makers, I completed a paper on indigenous zero waste methods. After the 2023 forum and work on declaration, I am focusing on the practical implementation of indigenous knowledge into modern food systems, writing guides with easy to apply steps based on my data. Currently, I am looking for an opportunity to collaborate with the food industry to apply our knowledge for food preservation, transportation, and waste reduction. We have many practices to address food security. Since 2024, I am a member of drafting community on ethical research, practice, and knowledge co-creation. Earlier this week, we presented the draft of the guidelines. Also, on behalf of my Sami colleague Maria, I would like to share her work this year. She is leader of YAS Association Ethno Energy. In addition to contributing to the discussion on the declaration, Maria has completed an internship program on indigenous rights with UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and she organized the Indigenous YAS Coalition focusing on educating young people on their rights and responsibilities in global processes, organized interactive sessions to build skills in discussion on climate, ecology, and self-determination. I also know that there are many initiatives being led by indigenous YAS across my region for climate change adaptations in far north, nutrition in our diets, and ultra-processed food effects. So we all dedicated our work for indigenous voices to be heard. Our knowledge is at the greatest risk of being lost, and we believe that declaration should serve as a practical tool to protect our rights and resources. That's what I wanted to share today, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mariam. And I would like to request remaining speakers to keep your remarks short since we have next session starting soon. Now I would like to pass the floor to Simran from Asia. Simran, the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm Simran and I'm come from tribal family and grew up experience hunger and importance of food security. I was inspired by these challenges to pursue a career in agriculture. I earned an engineering degree from Birsa Agriculture University and returned to my community to help our village cultivate high quality organic crops and find profitable markets for our products. Now I lead the NGO. I started a company to help tribal communities to promote their traditional food, agri-based products, and forest product. We started by training people and developed cooperative models through which they supply their product include rice, wheat, cereal, millets, jaggery, honey, and forest product. We also work with tribal farmers in the field to teach and train how to use technology for better result. My sister, Maithin, continues to work on a global scale for indigenous peoples, rights, and food system. Currently, she is the Executive Director of Nutrition at School Initiatives. She is continuing to inform and improve how indigenous people can access funds for food system initiatives through her work as the representative from the Asia region to the Steering Committee of Indigenous People Forum at IFAD. We are working in the global flora and community level in initiatives change and empower indigenous youth, leaders, and women for indigenous food system. And our food vision is our land, our food, our price. And we are working in this campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simran, for all the amazing work you are doing in your community. And now I would like to pass the floor to Sara Elvira from the Arctic region. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My community is currently facing the early stages of opening new mines on our traditional reindeer herding grounds. And this is the fight I'm leading back at home with my community and Sami youth. As the president of the Sami Youth Association and vice chair of World Reindeer Herders, I will continue to work for a future of Sami youth and our food systems in the face of these challenges. As many of you have seen and experienced in the labos of the World Reindeer Herders this week, indigenous innovation is essential for the future of our cultures and our planet. These spaces of gathering, dialogue, and learning are critical to negotiate our way forward. The challenges we are facing back home are not unique to our territory. Indigenous peoples globally are facing the upheaval and destruction of their food and knowledge systems due to extractive industry and green energy projects. This must be addressed, and indigenous peoples' rights in these situations must be prioritized. My fellow Arctic Focal Point, Michael, he is advocating for the awareness and correction about the non-equitable cases that restrict imports and the access of indigenous foods in the European Union. We need to legislature and actions to match these calls to action from the EU. Without the alignment of calls to action with legislature, our food visions will not be achievable. We will continue to fight and advocate for our rights of our territories and food systems. This is not only to benefit our communities, this is also about the wellness of our planet. So thank you. Kiitos.
Thank you so much, Sara Elvira, for representing your perspectives and your work from the Arctic region. Now I pass the floor to Bernard from Africa region.
Thank you very much. So I'm currently leading and involving youth in the promotion of food sovereignty, and also integrating knowledge transfer and ensuring that there is sustainable indigenous food production in indigenous people's territories. The work that we lead at the Kenya Indigenous Youth Network is helping with food systems for the youth who are working across the region. I also lead a grassroots organization called Laikipia North Community Conservation Initiative, and we are working on biodiversity eccentric restoration and conservation and applying indigenous knowledge in this work. My fellow indigenous youth leaders across Africa are also doing very impressive work in terms of food systems development and conservation projects. My sister Judy, who is a World Food Hero this year, is leading the OGEC of Koibatek with an organization called Koibatek OGEC Women Youth Network for Food Sovereignty and Security and Climate Change, Forest Rights and Gender Mainstreaming. Bella Sise, who couldn't join us here due to visa restrictions from Mali, leads the network of inclusive development in the Sahel and is creating water points, marketing areas, seed donations, and supporting agro-food processing activities, as well as agroforestry and capacity building. In his region, they are actively working to combat desertification. He pulls strength from knowledge of his traditional indigenous peoples and also building on the resilience of his people on food and climate crisis.
Let's give us a big round to these 7 indigenous youth who are doing an amazing work in their communities, and they are doing so much for our future, the future of our food systems, knowledge system, and the well-being of our planet.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing your inspiring words to us today. Now you can leave the stage and get back to your respective seats. The key priorities you have all identified paired with the actions you are leading us to a clear pathway forward to 2025. And we look forward to reconvening next year to reflect on the progress you made and the opportunities ahead. Thank you all for joining us this week at the World Food Forum.
Your leadership is critical in this work, so we are looking forward to see you all next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Start soon. Thank you so much.
Recording stopped.